This is Brain Software Podcast 122, featuring Chris Thompson, Mike Mandel, and Professor Dave Ambrose, coming to you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. If you're interested in hypnosis, NLP, or personal development, today is all about ramping up your creativity so you're in the right place. Give me a hand with the tent, Dave. This old canvas pecker is wet and heavy.
Kidding, man? Why'd you get a canvas tent? They make them out of runcible microchain polymers now, Scro, and they're light as a breech clout.
This is a breech clout, Dave, and a damn soggy one, too.
Yeah, funny stuff, Pouch. I'm about ready to boot someone in the breech clout if you don't get under shelter soon, Scro. Help me pull up the tent into this grain elevator, Chris. And you can do the introduction. I'm not in the mood today, man.
Sure thing, Dr. Ambrose. But before we do our awesome podcast on creative power, you are entitled to your paycheck. If you ask the question that everyone's waiting for.
Okay, hey, Beck. Whatever happened to that old magical mystery tour Tranquility we used to know back in 1967, man?
These are days of victory, Scro! So let's welcome to the very spindle of the hypnotic spinning wheel of camaraderie and free will, the double helix of hypnosis, the Winston Churchill of trance, who is still a welterweight and holding it 161.8 pounds, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, as long as I stay under 170, I'm still welterweight, and that's way better than the 190 I was. So this is freaking awesome, 161.8. We've got so much stuff to cover, so
Buddy,
take it away.
We do. So, and I have to say, I think for the last 2 or 3 episodes, we've been pre-framing the whole thing about, we've been talking over each other too much, and let's not do that, and then we've been promoting our stuff too much, and let's not do that. Well, we've been getting tons of emails from people saying, guys, you gotta talk over each other. That's what you do.
We don't want to kill the energy.
That's what makes it not canned and fun. So we're gonna kind of talk over each other,
yes,
but we'll still not over promote. So with that said,
let's do a mild promotion.
Yeah, here's
he
what's
says
coming
talking
up.
over him.
MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events. There is not much time to sign up for Wizard School. There's only a few spots left. I think about 4 at this point.
I think there's 4, yeah.
Something like that. We want to cap the class at about 30 people, and it's in Toronto. It's for advanced hypnosis students. We also have the Architecture of Hypnosis 5-day training coming up in June, which still actually has a good amount of space. There's lots of time between now and June. It's the May class that's sold out.
Yeah.
Those of you on the waiting list for May, you will be getting some of you will be getting an email from me because we've had a few cancellations, but we have a huge waiting list, so we will be filling it from the waiting list. If you're on the waiting list, sign up for the June class. I can always move you if you get a spot, but you're not going to get a spot in the June class if you wait too much longer. So that's what we're going to... Oh, let's also mention, if you stay tuned on our events page, we're going to be doing Wizard School in London in November.
Yes,
it is confirmed. It is going to be November 6th and 7th.
By popular demand.
Near Heathrow Airport, the day before the start of the UK Hypnosis Convention.
Which will be amazing.
So that's going to be awesome. All right, now we're ready to move on with the show, kids.
Chris, the think tank work of the day. I spun the magical dials, and the word is an odd one. Calcium. What does that trigger in your brain?
Buddy,
calcium deposit.
Since I read the notes, and I knew this was coming, but I didn't have a chance to think about it, and I didn't think about calcium deposits. I thought about what probably most people are thinking about, bones and strength, and just the idea that you need sufficient calcium in your bones or you're going to have brittle bones and all this stuff. I think about support. I think about it foundationally, structure, strength.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is, bones, and you know this, I'm sure, bones are not these rigid objects.
No, they're porous lattices.
And they're quite flexible.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Anybody who's been in an arm lock, an improved arm brace knows how flexible their bones can be.
Bones, proper healthy bones actually can flex a certain amount. So, all right, I think about it as, structural strength, rigidity, flexibility, foundational support.
Man, that's cool stuff. I had no idea where that would go. So how does that apply to the podcast?
I think that, Yeah, that's a good question. For our podcast, it comes down to the fact that everything we do is about living an awesome life, making your life better.
Right.
What are the foundational, what's the calcium of your awesome life?
Oh, nice. What's going to make that lattice work?
Right.
That
And
flexible lattice work.
Yeah, and a lot of the times it comes down to your belief systems, your interest in learning, and often, whenever you and I are talking about things like business, for example, I may not be the best business person in the world. I certainly haven't built the biggest company in the world or anything like that.
But you sure have a lot of calcium.
But I have a lot of fun doing what we do. Yeah. And oftentimes when people say to me, Chris, how have you managed to take the Mike Mandel hypnosis business and turn it into this thriving thing? Well, it really comes down to two things. When I started out, I didn't know anything about business, really, running a business, but I knew that I could learn. I knew that I could figure stuff out, and I also have this attitude of never freaking quitting. I just don't give up.
Yeah, that is your thing, is persistence.
So to me, that's my calcium of life.
Yeah.
And growth. Growth, calcium,
and let's
bones.
remember, calcium is a metal.
Yes,
People
it is a
don't
metal, and
realize
it's
that.
highly reactive.
Yes, you put calcium metal in water, and boom, there's my
boom.
mentalism effect from years ago, right?
You will have the calcium very quickly displace the hydrogen, and it go boom. Well,
Careful, you're going to summon Dave Ambrose with that kind of talk.
All right.
Okay, we got a question from Alfonso.
Oh,
this
yes.
is a long ago question.
I want to apologize to Alfonso because he sent this in November 2018. I filed it away in the project management software that we're using, and I just found it because you and I were going through a bunch of content planning for the year. Anyway, without further ado, here is Alfonso, originally from Brazil, now living in the United States. Here is his question, followed up with our answer. Alfonso, take it away.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Chris. My name is Afonso, and although I have been living for several years in the US, I am originally from Brazil. And my question is about languages. Does the fact that I have an accent play any role, positive or negative, in my journey to become a hypnotist? What about some of our subjects? How does the unconscious mind receive the Ericksonian hypnotic language if English is their second language? And what if I want to hypnotize someone back home in my native language, Portuguese? Can I just translate everything and use the same rules and principles? Thanks for the input, and I hope to see you guys sometime soon in Toronto.
Well, accent is always going to play a role, and it depends on the degree of the accent. He does not have a strong accent.
It actually is a really cool accent, too. To me, I love the sound of intelligence and a foreign accent together.
Do you know the most well-liked accent in the world is the Irish accent?
Isn't that interesting?
And it's interesting because the local classical station. Do you know the most announcer and a woman who has an Irish accent? It's just lovely to listen to. So the thing is, we're now talking about an analog scale, Alfonso. How much of an accent are we talking about, right?
Yeah, if it's an accent like Alfonso just demonstrated, it is very easy to understand what he's saying. And in my sense, an interesting accent, it always invokes this sense of curiosity, which actually is a really good thing for hypnosis. You want people curious because curiosity, an interesting accent,
Right. You know, you don't want to come in like Dracula and scare everybody.
If your accent is so thick and heavy that people cannot comprehend what you're saying, then it's a problem.
Right. Now, he's also talking about the Ericksonian paradigms, the Ericksonian language of the embedded commands and so on. If English is the second language, now that's an interesting question.
If the subject is, you're talking about the client or the subject. If your client speaks English as a second language and you are dealing with an Ericksonian style of hypnosis, how will the client react?
Well, ideally, you want to be speaking in the person's primary language. If we're looking at Noam Chomsky's theory about the language matrix, that the words just drop into and the logic of grammar drops into, as a child does not have to be taught grammar. Children just intuitively use the language matrix and begin to speak it and understand it.
Yes!
So, and remember, years ago, I worked for a confectionery company doing a training for them. I wasn't working as a candy seller, but it was Cadbury Canada, and they hired me to help with their training Canada-wide, and I taught them hypnotic language patterns and rapport and so on. And part of the group were from Quebec, so Montreal and all throughout Quebec, and they had to map it across into French. Now, some things were easier than others. You may find, Alfonso, it is a challenge to map some of the Ericksonian stuff across, even when we were saying, that's right, and modeling that what they're doing is the proper response, which intensifies trance. the French were saying c'est ça.
C'est ça,
Yeah.
or c'est vrai, or vraiment.
No, that's
or
true,
something.
though.
Yeah,
C'est vrai
yeah, I know.
won't
There
work.
were different things that
Yeah.
people would say, and it wasn't
C'est la
always...
même chose.
and- exactly. I think it was Neary,
Sorry, we're just lapsing
Neary in
into
Moncton, New
French here.
Brunswick, who was the
It
one who
was.
said c'est ça. That's,
ça, yeah.
that's probably the best.
Yeah.
So there is a way... Basically, the answer to your question, though, Alfonso, was yes, map across the principles. Don't translate. We're not a fan of scripts, right? So
Right.
in that same vein... Don't
Artery.
worry about translating it directly. Just take the principle and map it across into
Nice.
whatever language
Whether
you're
it's
using.
Portuguese, French, Chinese, whatever,
It'll work
right?
fine.
Yes.
So we've had in our classroom now, almost every time somebody is a French speaker, usually two French speakers, and can practice together in French once in a while. There's been German speakers. There's been
Many
different
different
dialects
languages.
of
Yeah,
English, of course, and French, English, German. all
Now,
over-
before this
all over
turns
the
into a
map.
Ken Sweatman story,
All right.
I have to
Oh.
just bring this up because this is driving me.
Okay,
a
now
little
we're
bit
getting onto the
nuts.
content, folks.
Okay, guys, I experienced the Ken Sweatman story on Sunday, and I'm going to word this very carefully. This is a friend of mine who sprung this on me. It was not Chris, a very nice guy.
What is a Ken Sweatman story,
Ken
Mike, for those who
Sweatman
don't
story
know?
is an explication, meaning it is an overly detailed explanation with unnecessary detail. Well, this guy hit it out of the frickin' park. If you do not calibrate the person you are talking to,
This is
you
important.
risk mistaking politeness for interest. He started to tell me, and I hope he's listening to this, and he may be. He started to tell me a story of this program he saw, a National Geographic documentary with Morgan Freeman in it, and he told me the entire episode in detail. Normally you say, oh, there was a thing and they said this and then this happened. He just kept going. And I started to send nonverbal signals that I wasn't really that interested because I hadn't seen it. And it was apropos of nothing. It didn't fit anything I was talking about. And I started to turn my feet away and walk away. Guys, watch the feet. Joe Navarro, FBI. I presented with him for Neil Strauss in Hollywood. I got a copy of his book. It's fantastic. The feet will tell you. The person's feet turn away. They are disengaging from you and they want this to be over. And my feet were practically 90 degrees turned away and he kept going. And I said, okay, yeah, I got to get a coffee. That's interesting. And he just kept going
Didn't pick
and
up on
followed
it.
me, just telling this story in agonizing detail. Now, he is a 9, Chris.
Yeah.
And 9s do go into saga mode if they're
Mike's
not
talking
careful.
about the Enneagram model of personalities for those interested.
Anyway,
Can you tell I'm a 9, Mike, by the fact that I had to build rapport with the audience
Yes,
by
that's right.
closing the loop
By
on,
breaking
well,
it with me.
What is that? Yeah. What is a 9? What? Everyone's thinking, what's a 9?
Not everybody.
Enneagram model.
But anyway, nice guy. But if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, calibrate. Notice that just because someone's being polite, it doesn't mean they
they're
find what
interested.
you're saying is interesting or remotely relevant to their life.
All right.
Thank you.
So there
I
we go.
feel
We're
so
going to
much
come
better.
up with a label for that. We
Well,
don't
we
know
have
what-
one, but we can't say
Yeah,
it.
we can't say it publicly, so we're going to come up with a more family-friendly version of the label. Ken Sweatman story being very long and almost senseless, and this is
Not even senseless,
This is
it's
a
just unneeded and
This
not
is
necessary.
a variation, a specific class of Ken Sweatman story, where somebody is telling you exactly what happened in a book
You're doing
or in
Ken
a
Sweatman
movie.
story now about Ken
No.
Sweatman stories.
So it's a specific class. So someone's going on and on about a movie you should watch, a book you should read, and then proceeding to tell you exactly what's
The whole
in
thing.
it, chapter by chapter, minute by minute. Okay.
I'm glad
so,
we're talking about Lord of the Rings. I'd
no,
still be standing
yeah,
there.
you would. That's
Yeah.
right. All right. So there you
Okay.
go. Now, if you're not going to do that, I want to also mention we started building the Ultimate Hypnosis Glossary.
Oh, yes.
And so in our podcast, there's lots of strange words, stories, etc. And we decided, because people keep asking things like, what does galanative mean? What does dursative mean?
Right.
I looked it up. I can't find it. So now my brilliant search engine optimization thinking is, well,
Nice.
if we put together the Ultimate Hypnosis Glossary and we start hiding in frames like Ken Sweatman's story and galanative and dursative, if somebody Googles that and spells it correctly, they'll find our glossary. So there you go.
Spells it
And they'll
correctly.
find our,
Yeah.
they'll find our podcast. So there is your Ken Sweatman, and
I just Google it and it is there.
it's totally
hilarious,
there. Yeah.
buddy.
All right, next
Two
is
N's in glanative,
if
the
you're
British spelling.
if you're not going to be boring Ken Sweatman boy or girl,
Right.
How do you be creative? How do you become creative, Mike?
Well, Chris, The beauty of it is creativity is our legacy as human beings. You already are creative. You just need to stimulate your creativity. And as you know, Chris, corporations have paid me thousands upon thousands of dollars, absurd amounts of money to come in and just teach this in a 1-hour session so that they can be more creative. All sorts of corporations. And we're going to give you a lot of those keys right now that you have in your brain everything you need to be an awesomely creative person. We're going to show you how to liberate that today.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, the father of creativity is really Edward de Bono.
Edward.
Medical
Edward is
doctor.
such a sophisticated sounding
It
name.
certainly
Edward.
is. Now, a medical doctor realized de Bono is also the one who gave us the 6 thinking hats,
Which
and
we
the
did a video
6
on.
action shoes.
We've talked about that in the podcast before.
Which are wonderfully creative ways of thinking and wonderfully creative ways of taking action in your life. But he is the man who gave us the term lateral thinking as well.
Lateral thinking. Love
Now,
it. Okay.
lateral means moving to the side, right?
Right.
What do people typically do? They have a meeting and they talk about, okay, we're going to do this or we're going to do this. And then next week, okay, we're going to have another meeting. They get back and they review what they just did and they start talking, we got to do this. And they will tend to dig in the same mine or the same well for water or the same mine for gemstones over and over and over until
Keep playing in
eventually,
the same sandbox.
yes, and eventually the ideas dry up. What you need to do is not dig deeper into a hole that's dried up. You need to move laterally and start digging a brand new hole. Now, this is de Bono at his finest, whether you're thinking in terms of it being a well or a gold mine or whatever. Eventually, it will go dry. It'll run out. You have to move laterally far enough away that when you dig a new hole, you're going to hit new stuff that you want.
Gotcha. Okay, so how does someone use that to, what are the questions that you might ask yourself in order to use that principle to get creativity?
Well, the key is you don't go where you already are, first of all, and you have to do what
So you
de
don't say
Bono-
how come the things that I'm doing aren't working?
Right. Yeah. What else isn't
that's a
working?
disempowering
What
question.
other ways is your life failing? Yeah, there's a disempowering question. And cancel out suggestion. By the way, the guy who yelled cancel that suggestion at me is in MMHA Engage.
No kidding.
Anyway,
Okay, that's
more
way
about
too
that
funny.
later.
All right,
But,
we'll have to get back to that. That's an open loop.
De Bono
Sidebar.
calls this a provocative operation, something that engages the brain in a brand new area. And one of the ways he demonstrates this is De Bono calls this chaos. So we're back to chaos and order. Order, if you stay orderly too much, there's no creativity. If you're entirely chaotic, there's no implementation of what you come up with. And so I just want to point out the clever way I'm wording all this. I'm quite enjoying this.
I love it.
So that's why we have a word of the day from the think tank for most podcasts now. We map it across and apply it to the podcast to see what that gives us that day. That is an example of moving laterally because calcium has nothing to do with the podcast whatsoever. That's the point. Our brains are self-patterning machines. They want to link ideas together. And so by choosing a random word, which is what the think tank will do, it'll generate random words, we map them across into the problem. Here, let me give you an example here. The very first brain software keynote, actually it was a 3-hour training I ever did in my life, was in the fall of 1992 in Nova Scotia. And it was at a college there on, what's the beautiful...
Was it Antigonish?
No, what's the beautiful island that everyone says?
Oh, Cape Breton Island.
Cape Breton Island.
Yeah.
It's the first time I'd ever been there. And it was, in fact, weirdly, Cape Breton was also the first place I did a creativity seminar. So we're doing all the old stuff I used to do in my seminar. But we did an exercise in creativity. And the task was to design a new kind of hotel. That was it.
Okay.
Everybody broke into groups, and we got a random word. And the word was plastic. And here's what they came up with. Plastic, one guy, you just jump with your ideas. One guy thought of a credit card. And he said, how about a hotel where there's no staff? You check in with your credit card. When you check out, it automatically shuts down. And then it became, what if the hotel was made of plastic? What if it's a plastic pod? So there's a bed in there, a washroom, a sink, there's ventilation, a little TV. You check in with your card. It opens the door. You have access to it for 8 hours. Then it shuts down. When you pull your card out at the end, it shuts. It sends a signal to the company that comes and cleans it.
Yeah.
And then it's ready for the next one. Brilliant. We discussed this. It was brilliant. A few months later, it was implemented in Tokyo, Japan.
Isn't that
See,
phenomenal?
nobody lives in a vacuum. Not that our idea caused it, but someone drew that same conclusion. And it was from taking the word plastic and linking it to hotel where there is no connection. See, now if you say that word doesn't apply, I don't like that word. It's because you're You're not forcing it to apply. You really have to
Yeah,
make
you
it
do have
not
to
force, but you have to
I
make
understand
it connect.
what you mean. So you're taking a concept like, okay, I'm in the hotel industry and I want to somehow disrupt this industry. How can I come up with a creative new idea?
Right.
Well, let's force this word into the situation.
Yeah, let's
What
push
does
them,
it inspire
push them together
me?
and cause this connection.
What does this inspire
And we're going
me
to give
create?
the complete
It
connection.
is fusion, Mike.
It is, Chris. It is fusion. Hydrogen to helium, the primary energy source of the universe. So here we have the idea that we have a wealth of resources available already, because every movie you've ever seen, every book you've ever read, every conversation you've ever had, all of this is stored in your unconscious as a protein molecule somewhere. And when we start to cause things to connect that are not consciously connected, we begin to spark all this unconscious stuff. Anyway, if we approach this, first of all, from the state that we are creative, believing that we're going to liberate these things. Curiosity opens all our sensory channels. We don't want to be in a lousy state going into this. And Chris and I recommend my tapping method on the Chinese triple warmer meridian, which is our point, which is on the back of the hand between the ring finger and the baby finger. There's a channel 2 fingers wide. Tap in there firmly with the other hand. And while you confidently say things like, I am creative, I'm a creative monster, I am amazing at building new ideas, do this for like 30 seconds.
Do we have a video on that anywhere in our YouTube channel? Because if not,
Good
I
question.
propose we should probably just shoot a quick one and then embed it in the show notes. So if you're listening to
I heard the
this-
embedded stuff there. A quick one in bed. That was in your
We
sentence. I heard that. Yeah, I hit the tip in your sentence. I heard that.
on that in our show notes on the website. So if you're listening to this on iTunes and you want to know where that is, hopefully it'll be in the description of the show notes, but you'll be able to find it by visiting Mike Mandel, hypnosis.com, and then you'll see a podcast link in the navigation area, and you'll be able to scroll and navigate to podcast 122, which is the one you're listening to right now.
Nice. That's good. Excellent, Chris. Now, realize one of the things you have to keep in mind is that stupid ideas can lead to great ideas. You must never judge your ideas during the creative phase.
Are you
We
sure?
say
That
during
sounds
the,
like a
the
dumb
green
idea.
hat thinking is the creative one.
Yes.
If you're going to black hat them and stomp all over these ideas before they get started, you're not going to do very well.
Yeah, you're going to green for the. I remember from the episode that we did on this. Green is like a shoot coming out of
Right.
the ground. There's growth, and
There's
then
life, and there's money.
Black hat is stomping all over the
Finding out
ideas.
why it won't work,
So
yeah.
you don't want to black hat ideas before you give them a chance to build some
Yes, you
strength.
have to let
before
these
the
things grow.
calcium comes in.
Nice. So we don't judge things while we're creating them. And sometimes the stupidest things can lead to great ideas. Remember, in the United States, they were attempting to create this ultimate strong adhesive. And they wound up creating one in their chemical labs that was so weak it didn't stick anything together.
Post-it notes.
Post-it notes. They didn't throw it out.
3M.
They applied it. 3M wound up applying it. And it became Post-it, which was a huge moneymaker for them. So recognize you have the means to come up with ideas that may initially seem stupid, but you can turn them into something great, which now leads to the trigger game.
Oh,
Chris, do you
okay.
remember the trigger game?
No.
Okay. The trigger game I created for long car trips many years ago. The idea was when we introduce chaos with a random word, it will go through your brain and quickly find source elements that it will connect to it. For example, when your brain stores, let's say, an American dollar, the concept of one, it doesn't store it as an American dollar. It does, but it stores it also as money. It stores it as finances. It stores it as paper. It stores it as all the greenbacks, like all of these different things that are all cross-linked to other things.
Yeah, everything is connected in some way to many things in your brain.
That's right. So the trigger game was designed so that whenever it is needed, whenever we need a new idea, we just bring in this random word, but we make a game out of it instead. So I would say this to a classroom. I'd say, I'm just going to say a word or a couple of words. As soon as this triggers a real memory that you have not thought about in years, raise your hand.
Okay, not just the association game, like what does it make you think
Right,
of when
but
I
an
say
actual-
watermelon, but a memory.
In your own personal history. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to say the same one I
Okay,
said to the
okay.
class.
I have no idea what's coming. Let's see.
Okay. And
Stories from my life.
see what you come up with. Pop bottle.
Pop bottle. Oh man.
You probably made explosives.
Sort of, yeah. So bottle got switched to can in my mind immediately.
Okay, you follow that link.
And I'm following back to when I was a kid, and I thought, what's going to happen if I shake this pop can like a Coke can or whatever, and then literally hurl it as high as I can in the air to land on the basketball court that was outside in front of my house in the park area.
And how many people were blinded by the shrapnel,
None.
Chris?
But man, watching this pop can just explode was just fascinating to me.
Okay, that's good. Now give me one. Give me a random one.
I'll give
Not-
you
for a
hard
specific-
drive.
Hard drive. Oh, man. Right away, I think of the first hard drive I ever got, the first computer I ever got. It was 20 megabytes.
Yeah,
And
had
I
one of
paid
those.
the extra $300 to get a 30 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
$300 to get 10 more meg. I mean, and you hear it grinding away there.
Yeah, back in the days
So
of
you
the
see how-
8088 processor.
You
Yep.
see what this is doing? This is causing what's called ignition. So
Ignition.
anytime we are introducing chaos, something random, our brains are able to work with this. And I came up with this whole acronym of PRICE, P-R-I-C-E, to teach the method I teach corporations, and normal people do, how to use their own rampant creativity and bring it out. So
how much are you going to charge us to reveal this
nothing
on the
whatsoever.
podcast? What's
I'm
the price,
super
Mike?
nice guy, horrible
What's the
price.
price?
Your firstborn
All
child,
right.
Chris, and
So,
your doggy.
All right, let's go through it. What's price?
P is preparation. And this is building your schema. Remember, your schema is your base knowledge for any specific task. And I recommend have a very broad-based schema. I have given myself, being a high school dropout, I've given myself a classical education. I've learned things about language, about literature, culture, art, music, history, geography. Science, of course. All of these things, not so much math, but all of these things have filled up my schema with things I can draw from when needed. For example, many years ago in the early 1980s, my mother-in-law, who's since passed away, her mother, so my wife's grandmother, was hospitalized in Scarborough General Hospital. She was there for some sort of hip thing or whatever, and they discovered on her leg a lesion on her calf that was weeping. It wouldn't go away. They treated it with corticosteroids, all sorts of things. They tried to dry it. It wouldn't go away. But I remembered reading that people in Japanese prison camps who'd been in the tropics would develop tropical ulcers. The cure is potassium permanganate. And so I said to her, have you
been in the tropics
No,
recently?
I didn't. The doctor said that. They'd just gotten back from an extensive stay in Florida, and they'd been through all the mangroves and so on. Anyway, I said, ask the doctor, what is a tropical ulcer? Just ask him. So when he comes in to look at it, he lifts with his pen, he lifts the sheet and looks and she said, what's a tropical ulcer? And he said, have you been to the tropics? She said, well, I was in Florida for a long time.
So that prompted them to ask the question. They didn't ask it in advance. Gotcha.
And he said, I think we're going to try potassium permanganate. He did, and it completely resolved it. Now, I had that bit of knowledge in my schema to solve that specific problem. But the beauty is everybody listening has stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. You don't have Mike's schema. You have your own. But if you focus on it through the idea of being preparation, so build your schema, you will have more of a foundation.
Things, yes.
Right?
So
That's your
the prep.
calcium.
That's your calcium. Build the
Yeah.
matrix. Your calcium matrix so that you have a lot of information there. Widely diverse is the key.
So that is preparation. Then we're on to R.
Which is reflection.
Okay.
Now this is before you trigger it. Chris, you're going to hear ADAC in this. Associate, dissociate, associate, collapse.
Which is a
the
meta pattern
for
method
therapy.
of helping people fix problems.
What this is, when you're thinking reflection, when we're taking that word, this is pondering the questions to be answered. You're associating into the problem state.
Okay.
You're saying, okay, we're having trouble firing our staff. They're suing us when we do. Like this sort of thing. So you reflect on it so your brain knows what you're going after.
Okay.
Or I need to build a new shed in the backyard, but I can't afford the materials. What am I going to do? Well, obviously brown paper dipped in vinegar and stapled together. So and some of you a little more hip than others will get that. I think you know who you are. So you're going to reflect on it. You're going to get the problem state in mind. You're going to just allow your brain to dwell on this for a bit so it knows what you're going after. That's the R. Now the third one is I, ignition.
Okay.
This is the spark plug. This introduces chaos
And
into the situation.
Yeah, this is like the triggers. So you've got, your think tank word or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Or a dictionary can be your best friend for problem solving. You don't want a think tank like I do. You can just have a good dictionary.
Well, so I remember sometimes when we didn't have the think tank in advance planned, we'd literally pick a book off of a bookshelf here in my office.
Just dip in at random.
And we would just pick a word. Boom, whatever showed up. You just place your finger on a page.
You just admitted to the world that we didn't actually use the think tank on some occasions.
Oh, yeah. And well, before we started talking about it, I think maybe 10 or so episodes ago, I don't think we even talked about think tank. We just talked about word
the
of
random
the day.
Okay, I feel better. I'm off the hook
I'm pretty
now.
sure.
Now, another great one is the Whack Pack, which is Roger Von Oak, who got a PhD in creativity.
iPhone app, right?
It's an iPhone app. It's
Or
a
a
solid
deck of cards.
Yeah, deck of cards. And that's a great way to bring chaos in. And the one I looked at today, he says, go with the second best answer. He said the problem is if you pick your first answer for anything, you stop looking.
It's too obvious, and it's maybe not the ideal answer.
It might not be the best
it's
one.
It's the surface. You have to sweep away more of the dirt to find what's really underneath.
Which really means, yes, that's right. Which really means the way to get good ideas is the same way you take great photographs. You get great ideas by generating a lot of ideas. And you get great photographs by taking lots of pictures.
That's
and
true.
You throw out a bunch of them and you delete them.
Isn't it amazing how with the internet and with digital cameras, of course, there's so much more interesting photography out there because it costs nothing to take another picture.
Right, that's right.
No development. Yeah.
So the Whack Pack we recommend is a way of introducing chaos. Also, the Delphi deck is a thing I came up with years ago. And we're going to do this as an app at some point.
It
still exists in beta form.
Somewhere in my house, I have the very first Delphi deck you ever created.
Actually, that's
index
the second
cards.
one. I made two.
You made
copies.
one for yourself. Yeah.
And it's a great way of stimulating creativity. But the point is, you must introduce chaos at this point. You can't generate it out of your own head. You can't say, okay, the word is running. The reason you're generating that word is because there is already an unconscious association with it. And I used to do this with clients. I would create artificial schizophrenia, where schizophrenics see meaning where there isn't any. In fact, one of the phrases that is a test for schizophrenia in a multiple choice test, a psychological test, is bullpens have ballpoints. Makes great sense to me. And if the person, it makes sense. That's a schizophrenia indicator. Bullpens have ballpoints.
Weird.
I know, it's nuts. So forgive me for saying nuts. I mean, the question is nuts, not people who answer yes to it. So that's kind of interesting. But the point is, I would get people, put them in a hypnotic trance and tell them to go to, did this a couple of occasions, to the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto to walk around. And when they did, they would see the answer to their problem.
And guess what?
They would, because something would happen. Trigger. And so that's ignition.
So the order part is that you're given a specific task. Go to the museum, walk around, you're going to find the answer. The chaos part is you don't really know what that answer is going to be or how it's going to fit. Now, I want to mention too here, and we'll keep this brief because we got to move. But the Ericksonian language pattern cards that we created, they're available on our homepage, just MikeMandelHypnosis.com. Scroll down, you'll see an ad for the language pattern cards. They are something that help you introduce chaos and order in practicing conversational hypnotic language. We did this in a YouTube video. It's on our YouTube channel. It's publicly available, so you can check it out. But it is kind of cool because let's say you've got this deck of cards that all have unique language patterns on them. And I don't mean unique as in we invented them. I mean each card has a different pattern on them. And so you're picking a card at random and you've decided what you're going to aim the language pattern at. Let's say being more motivated to eat healthy foods or being more motivated to find a new hobby so that you can change your career or whatever. I don't know. And by then picking random cards out of the deck and creating conversationally hypnotic language that you aim at this objective, you are introducing order in that there's a card, there's a topic, there's a target, but the chaos is how the heck am I going to make this word fit?
Right.
Yeah. And it makes it a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun with that. Okay, continue.
So now we've done ignition. That's a good point. So remember, that's just introducing chaos. Now we get to chain reaction. Yeah, preparation, reflection, ignition, chain reaction. Think of stepping stones in a river.
Oh, yeah.
And the key is with chain reaction is go fast.
Or you going to fall.
You're going to go fast because by going fast, you're not going to be evaluating what you're saying too much.
Right.
So you can go calcium to teeth, dentist. This is it. You jump and suddenly something will hit and you'll get your new idea. You're going to let your brain fire its self-patterning system and jump idea to idea, which is what we got, plastic to credit card to a plastic building.
You're making me think of our intervention of, isn't the real issue here, Mike, that, there are people who they apply this creativity and this chain reaction mechanism and it causes them to go so fast that they fall down. And people are falling down because they have a lack of balance. And the lack of balance is coming from being too weak, not enough calcium. Their diets are horrible. And what are you prepared to do to deal with this lack of nutrition in the general population today?
Nicely done. So
that's an example of how we do that.
Don't judge your ideas, though. Don't judge. Fire your stepping stone. Go, what does this make me think of? What does this make me think of? Bang, 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 really fast. You can write them down, whatever. No black hat thinking. You're just generating fresh ideas. Get lots of things that it makes you think of.
Brainstorming,
and then you're going to look
basically,
back over these and decide what you're keeping. The final step is E, execution. Doesn't mean killing someone. It means check ecology too. Is it feasible? Now you've got your idea.
Can you put it into action?
You know, like one guy says, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Mars. I have built a rocket ship. I can do this, and this." And well, except I don't have any money, and okay, it's not feasible. It makes me think of Norm Yates and I, when our friend Derek in public school, and I mentioned this many podcasts ago, showed up at school, new kid in class. We were totally into dinosaurs, had plastic dinosaurs, amazing. We were drawing dinosaurs, fighting tanks and planes, and the movie Gorgo had just come out, which I missed because I had frickin' mumps. But anyway, this guy Derek comes to our school, and we're all into dinosaurs, and we said, what does your dad do, Derek? He said his dad was a scientist who made robot dinosaurs. And we were like, what? And he's telling us one broke out of the garage and the army had to come. We were just blown away. I mean, we're 7 years old, right? So we thought this was fantastic. And we told our parents, and they're like, oh, yeah. And so then my mom met Derek's mom and found out his dad was a sanitation engineer, the guy who collected the garbage. And
wow.
It was a sad thing. Like, not there's anything wrong with that profession.
No, it's just that
we need it.
The kid was...
But the way he was building, this whole thing about dinosaurs. So Norm Yates and I, not to be deterred, this is this execution part. Thought, damn it. Well, we didn't say that because it would have been bad words for kids. We can't get a robot dinosaur from Derek. He said he was going to lend us like a stegosaurus to ride to school on and all this. It was very exciting. We'll just build our own.
Yeah.
We're going to build our own. So we got
Did you use a
material.
wagon?
No, we got cardboard boxes.
Okay.
Cardboard boxes.
Staples, vinegar.
We were going to build stegosauruses and glyptodons and stuff. Brought them all in the backyard and set the cardboard boxes down and sort of looked at them.
We don't know how to do this.
And then Norm went, yeah, I got to get going. I went, yeah, see ya. That was it.
So
was
you don't want to do that.
Yeah, well, we can't. You've got to check. What's great about the idea? Well, it would be wonderful to have robot dinosaurs, but can you actually make it happen to implement this? What needs to be done? That's when you black hat. Only when you're implementing it at the end. So price is preparation, reflection, ignition, chain reaction, and execution. And that'll serve you well. Chris, we have now got to go to a commercial break.
Tonight on the Texas Schoolbook Depository Network. Imagine sand dunes that proceed to the distant horizon. Under a dark sky and a bright full moon, a small boy walks his pet raccoon during the cool of the evening. It has been an ordinary sort of day, with a baboon sighting in the park that afternoon, a stapler shortage at Earl Beatty Public School, and the flowers are blooming magnificently. But just ahead of the boy, nestled there in the sand, was a remarkable discovery, just waiting to be made. He wandered, whistling a tune that was originally written for a bassoon, and that was where he found it. A new friend. He found the little white balloon, and everything changed when he put it on his head. This is the fascinating, true story of a wonderful but short-lived friendship between a small boy and the little white balloon.
The Little White Balloon, tonight at 7 p.m. Viewer discretion advised.
All right, here we are back to the podcast. So let's wrap up, Mike. We've got a few more things to cover, and then we can end it.
Some hints when you're being creative. Say you want to write a short story. My writing teacher, Cordelia Strube, who we hired to come to our house, she's a professor at Ryerson, a published author. She's amazing. She said, jump right in. And there's a lot of things in life that are like that. When you want to do something new, jump in at the top, figure it out when you get there. Now, you cannot do that with brain surgery, flying a plane, or nuclear weapons, but there's a lot of things you can.
I want to mention here, you just said something about jump right in that reminded me of something I learned when I took a copywriting course. And again, copywriting is about writing copy that is interesting, usually for marketing. And one of the tips was, whatever you start with, probably get rid of the first sentence or two, because that way your copy starts with you having jumped right in. You didn't pre-frame the whole thing. You just, boom, you dove right into it.
Yes.
And it improves the quality of the writing. Dove
is dove.
You've dived right in, and it improves the quality of the story. Okay, so jump right in. All right, what's next?
And remember when I became a wine writer, I just jumped in at the top of the industry. I read a 1,000-page encyclopedia, Wine for Dummies, just started writing about wine, and cases of Bordeaux started arriving in my house, and I was treated like a wine writer, became a wine writer, became a wine judge, and just from jumping in at the top and figuring it out when I got there.
Doesn't work with brain surgery, but it does with many other things.
Yes. Now, if you're creating products, don't be afraid to be ridiculous. Who would have dreamed that pet rocks a number of years ago? People bought rocks. They're paying like $5 for a rock wrapped up in a piece of paper in a box.
Yeah, or just we'd find a rock and paint it, right? And that would be a pet rock.
No, I never did that, Chris. I was trying to build dinosaurs.
Oh, that's true.
Remember, MedPeds are before your time.
Yeah,
MedPeds
I don't even know what that is.
I was a little boy. It comes from the word medical and ped from like the foot.
Okay.
Latin. And my mom didn't have a pair of these, but I thought she probably would. The ads on TV were hilarious. These plastic little boots with a sponge liner. And when your feet are tired at the end of a hard day vacuuming, you put on a pair of MedPeds. And these boots, you fill them with warm water from the kettle, and there's a soak you put in. And while you're doing your housework, your feet are getting a comforting foot bath.
Squish,
the
squish.
MedPed. I mean, just ridiculous. But they sold.
Yep.
And so did that damnable duck dance. Do you remember that?
No. Oh, yeah, the song.
It was a huge song. People in discos, like doing disco duck years ago, too. Ridiculous.
Well, yeah, people will believe just about anything, won't they? Yeah, how many of those different ab roller, ab shaker, ab buster, the different ab six-pack,
I had an ab roller, and it was a lumbar spine crusher.
Yeah. So those things, those things sell, and this is just different ways that marketers were creative. All right, what's next?
And remember, throwing ideas together is bringing in chaos. Mash things up, things that don't typically fit. That's how you've heard me do it, Chris. I can write an original song with lyrics instantly on any topic, and just
it's true.
I'm not going to do it now, but I've done it many times.
Maybe we'll do
I just throw things together and let my unconscious, which is about 3 seconds ahead of my conscious mind, or maybe 6, come up with this stuff.
It's freaky, and the way you do this, I'm assuming, is because you just trust your unconscious to fill in the blanks.
That is correct.
You'll start something and then let your unconscious fill it in.
When you're trying to solve a problem, you're actually quite right. Let's look at just 2 more things and then we'll close. The first one is metaphors. How is my problem like? And just throw in something at random.
How is
it like a fireplace?
Like a pair of scissors?
How's it like a kitchen? How is my problem like a biosphere? Like whatever it is. Well, map them across. Get the random word again. And the as-if frame. How would so-and-so solve it?
That's a great one. And you were just saying something about rockets and Mars. And I thought, well, how would Elon Musk solve this problem?
Right.
That's a great one because the guy's so innovative and clever.
But you can also go with how would... Jerry
Bill
Seinfeld
Gates.
solved this.
Yeah.
Bill Gates would create a crap operating system that sent you a piece of tape every day to stick on the 6-foot diameter piece of tape that is you now call a computer. But we'll edit that out.
No, we won't.
Okay, Chris, let's close with you giving us today's empowering question.
All right, here is the empowering question for Brain Software episode 122. Ask yourself, in what area of my life am I going to apply my own awesome creativity? And how will my life change when I do it? What creative solutions will I find by activating my own wealth of unconscious resources?
Nice one, buddy. And I got a Meta 5 to go with that.
All right, we're going to have to throw Meta 5 in the glossary to explain that it's a metaphor,
only
but better.
Here's one for you. Back in 1979, when I was just a lad of 25, 26, I was hired by the company in Niagara Falls, Ontario that ran the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, all these different theme museums, the Houdini Museum, and they also had the Guinness Book of Records Museum. And in that place, they had the world's most expensive pair of golf shoes. They're $250,000 or something. They had a watch owned by a guy who'd been hit by lightning 6 times. Once it went through the watch and burned the inside out. I mean, it was an amazing thing. But they were running an event where they were seeing what records could be broken. Now, Guinness does not anymore, no longer supports eating records. They used to, but that kind of thing can be dangerous. And I was asked to MC this, and they got me to watch videos of David Frost from Britain doing the MCing of an event of the similar thing in Britain. And so I was the MC going, he's almost succeeded. We got 5 minutes left. I mean, it was quite a lot of fun to do, and I got paid as well. So this guy, Brian Reef, came in, and he was attempting to set the Guinness Book of Records. the new record for eating live dew worms, which are night crawlers. Worms about 8 inches long. The way he would do it was he'd have a quart of orange juice. He'd drink orange juice in between. So the gun went off, the metaphorical gun, and he had a plate. He washed an entire plate of dew worms and just would open his mouth and drop it or swallow it whole. Well, you don't want to chew them.
I imagine.
And he was attempting, I think, to break his previous record, which was like 40 or something. And he got to about 35 and was violently ill. And I had to be the man who announced that Brian Reef has failed in his attempt to swallow 41 live worms.
Thanks, everybody. This has been a fun episode of the Brain Software Podcast with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson, and we hope that this has inspired something creative in your life. So make sure you head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com, where you can download a free copy of the Brain Software ebook. It's totally awesome. And we got a lot of good stuff for you. We've got more podcast episodes, blog posts, videos. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again on the next episode, because Mike and I are now off to have lunch where we'll probably eat a hamburger patty and some dew worms.
Oh, gosh. Edit that out.
All right, and good night!
There once was a boy in the middle of June, walking out on the dune with his pet raccoon. And under that moon, not a moment too soon, right near a baboon, he found a balloon. Right beside the lagoon and a broken cocoon. So he whistled a tune, sounding just like a loon. I'll go home now, he said, the balloon on his head. But now he is dead, 'cause it flooded his bed. The little white balloon, it flew to the moon. And now he is dead, 'cause it flooded.
What the hell is the now he's dead part? That's just weird.
Oh, man. There's a story there.